The first community leader is going to share a story with you.
My parents escaped the Vietnam War as boat people and were rescued by a German ship. My brother and I were born in Germany, and then we came to the United States to reunite with relatives. Once we got here, we applied for political asylum. Well, on the day of my high school graduation, and after living here for 12 years, our petition was denied. We were given a deportation order, but Germany wouldn't accept us because we're not German.
Our book really honors the work that immigrant youth have done to advance the rights of all immigrants in this country, and we put a special focus onto women who were part of that movement but left too soon.
The title of the book is Undocumented and Unafraid, Tam Tran, Cinthya Felix, and the Immigrant Youth Movement.
Undocumented immigrants have been fighting for immigration reform for a long time, and the DREAM Act was actually first introduced in 2001.
Undocumented and Unafraid is a slogan that has been embraced by the immigrant youth movement, and it captures the mentality that we should not be afraid or ashamed of our undocumented status. We started working on our first publication in 2007 and completed it around 2008. Throughout that book, we see that we use pseudonyms. Nobody used their real name. People were sort of wondering what the consequences would be.
Immigration agents raided my family's home just 2 months ago. I was separated from my mom, and my dad, and my little brother.
It was a different time. People were really scared. They hadn't built that kind of a support network to be able to come out.
Tam Tran and Cinthya Felix were among the early leaders of the immigrant youth movement.
Most of us in the movement knew about both Tam and Cinthya, right? They were such pioneers in really everything that they did.
They were among the first students that we have heard of going on to graduate school.
They symbolize the hard-working immigrant. They work and try to do as much as possible, not only in school but also in their own communities.
Tam and Cinthya became friends as undergraduates and supported each other as they ventured out beyond UCLA and applied to graduate school, and they supported each other through that process.
It was kind of culture shock to see that I was one of the only Latino students in the whole program. I was probably the only one that is undocumented because everybody else is an international student, but they're coming from very different socioeconomic status.
Well, Cinthya graduated from one of the high schools that I went to, which was Garfield High School. And when I actually transferred into UCLA, Ideas had this workshop on how to apply for scholarships, and Cinthya actually gave the workshop.
Cinthya was a co-founder of Ideas, and they all came together and decided to start this organization and provide resources for undocumented youth and for each other. Cinthya's role was very much like a big sister to a lot of folks because she led by example. Tam came into the movement as an activist, as a person who was among one of the first people to be unafraid of her status.
Senator, I've been raised as an American since I was 6 years old. I graduated from UCLA, and I now work at a nonprofit. That's the America I believe in.
She went on to produce 2 very influential documentaries that we show all over the country as a tool that others can use and learn from.
And they never told me because my family was, ashamed and they didn't really know what to say. We're a kid forever because right now I can't get any form of real government ID that would prove my age. There are all of these constant reminders. Every store and bank and transaction with an ID, and every place of work, every travel poster, everything is a little post-it that says, not yours.
She really showed us how important it was to really document ourselves and take control of the image that people have of us. When we all found out that Tam and Cinthya passed away, there was an overwhelming sense of loss. You saw sort of the ripples they left, of who they touched, beyond the fact that they were so involved in the immigrant rights movement, but that they were able to be such great friends after they gave those workshops or after they gave their speeches. Youth organized memorials all over the country. One of the pictures in the book that we showcase, it's the 5 students who did the civil disobedience inside Senator McCain's office in 2010. And all 5 students are wearing a button, and it has a picture of Tam and Cinthya. And you really get to see the impact they had. And I think that was the kind of inspiration that Tam and Cinthya gave to a lot of youth across the country. The second part of the book really covers a lot of the actions that happened starting in 2010 to now. I'm really excited about the idea that we're putting things that we are just starting to talk about in the movement. We have a piece about queer undocumented youth. We're able to see how to break out of 2 closets and what that means for our movement and how important it is to embrace that. Mainstream media, there's a picture painted of what an immigrant is. What's so great about including the API student organizing piece in this book is that we see a picture of what it means to be an Asian undocumented student or youth activist. There were over 20 undergrads working on this. Then we have over 30 contributing authors.
There's so many great stories in this new book. I think if you look at it as a trajectory of the movement, every single story, every single action made a huge impact to not only educate and try to move elected officials, but also to empower and bring more people to this movement.
The DREAM Act is a piece of legislation, and it mobilized people to tell stories, but that evolved and it turned into a movement about identity and about acceptance and about equality. We've come so far since the first time the DREAM Act was introduced in 2001, and it has progressed in the right direction. It's not about the piece of legislation now, it's about our identities and it's about our livelihoods and just the right to dream like anyone else. I'm proud and I'm excited about the next steps.